At this time, smoke was coming from an old hut in the forest. Liu Mo was sitting inside the hut in front of the stove. He took one of the ingredients and with a slight movement of his hand sent it straight into the stove. He gathered energy around his hands and the ingredient began to dissolve. Following this, he threw Xuanming fruit, King Mingdu, and Thousand-Year Highlander into the oven. He thought that he had already taken out more than 10 kinds of ingredients and added them to the oven. There is only one step left, but it will be very difficult. It began to shape and all the ingredients began to merge into one pill. A bright glow began to emanate from the boiler, and after that Liu Mo opened the lid of the oven and steam began to escape. Inside the furnace, he saw the finished pills and said that finally he could. He held the pill close to his mouth, but then tossed it inside and tasted it. He said that the pill immediately melted into his mouth, turning into a homogeneous mass. He feels the warmth spread through his body as the liquid hits his throat. There is a subtle sensation as if he is being burned by a cold fire. This must be a pill that cleanses his body of impurities. But the effect is a little weak. He doesn't think that the experts from the Velvet Fairy Senior Flow would lie to him unless there is a problem with the formula. He poured the pills into the bag and thought, what is he talking about? The pill formula is something that masters spend hundreds of years of research to create. Judging by the theory set out in the manual for the use of pills, which the master gave him, there are no problems with the formula. The formula was perfect and the ingredients were correct, but he was only able to create a pill with 30% of the described healing power. He thinks he can consider it a failure. He must have done something wrong. He sighed and said that he was already a little tired from the mental stress. He spent a lot of his spiritual kai to cultivate. Suddenly he realized, spiritual kai. Spiritual kai can act as a vessel for the healing effect to penetrate into the bones and bloodstream. It can also help combine the opposing therapeutic effects of Qiang flower and Xuanming fruit. According to the pill manual, not only can he infuse spiritual kai, he must also infuse power into the pill. This will increase the effect of the pill. He needs to try this. He will first coat the extracts with a layer of spiritual kai, then add some mental power to them. Thus, he can marinate healing powers with his powers. The ingredients began to transform and smoke began to emanate from the hut. The smoke spread throughout the area until it became visible in the sky. At this time, workers at the weather station noticed this and told the director that their instruments had recorded another strange phenomenon over Mount Yuking. The top of the mountain is covered in thick fog. The director said that they didn't even figure out how the incident happened a few days ago. How did another anomaly appear? Let them monitor this closely. He will contact management immediately. At this time, powerful energy began to emanate from the furnace, which Liu Mo needed to absorb. He exerted all his efforts and a pill began to form in a bright glow, and then there was a powerful burst of energy. At this time, not far from the mountain there was an admiring photographer who said that it was not in vain that he had spent the last few days hiking. At this time, Liu Mo decided to increase the heat while refining the pill. Immediately after this, a very bright glow became noticeable on the top of the mountain, from which creatures began to appear. First a dragon appeared from a bright light, then a tiger appeared. The photographer exclaimed, "What is this? Is it an azure dragon and a white tiger?" There are 4 mythical beasts that are considered the guardians of each direction. The azure dragon of the east, the white tiger of the west, the bird of the north, and the tortoise of the south. At this time, in one of the city's high-rise buildings, standing at the window and looking at the top of the mountain, the man said that he understood everything. He told the weather station director to simply monitor the phenomenon closely and report any changes to him immediately. He called his subordinate and told him to prepare the helicopter. They would go on a trip to Yuking Mountain. At this time, Liu Mo inhaled the aroma of pills while the entire room was filled with fog. He began to shape the pill and said with relief that it worked. He opened the furnace lid and saw sparkling pills inside. He ate one of them and felt as if there was an ocean of spiritual kai in this pill. A powerful wave of cold fire flows softly down his throat before spreading through his bloodstream. This is 10 times stronger than his last attempt. Just think, this can improve the quality so much. He underestimated this device. He poured the pills into the bag and said that he still thinks that this is not ideal. His strength is still low. What if he increases the concentration of spiritual and mental power? The pill he had just swallowed had restored some of his spiritual power, so he could try again. He began to prepare the ingredients, and at this time, the old man in the temple was watching the stream of the Velvet Fairy. He wondered if they would have enough money to cover expenses if he donated another rocket. Suddenly, a student ran up to him and said that a helicopter was flying in their direction. The old man asked why his helicopter was here again. His student asked, "Is he talking about Director Wu from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Since they are here to find him, it means they again do not understand something." The old man said that they, cultivators, have a responsibility to help the world when something supernatural happens. The student asked what responsibility. Didn't the master just work on the street, making a living doing palm readings for ladies before meeting Director Wu? He didn't care about the money either. He just wanted to hold the hands of the young ladies. After he got hooked on Dahlia's streams, he spent all the money from Director Wu on a donation, causing their already poor sect to fall even lower. His teacher hit him and said that he took him in and raised him for 17 years. Not only does he not listen to his instructions, but also tries to teach him. The student exclaimed that he spent all the money he had for his dowry on live broadcasts. How is he getting married now? His teacher responded by exclaiming that he had never even held a girl's hand. Does he think he'll ever get engaged? The student asked, didn't he say that if he touched their hand, he would have to marry them? His teacher told him to stop talking nonsense. Director Wu has arrived. Outside the temple, the rumble of a helicopter was heard, from which Director Wu came out along with his subordinate. The old man and his disciple came out to meet him and bowed to each other. The old man told the director that a lot of time had passed. Director Wu called him Daoshi and said that it was so long ago. Taoshi is a term for a monk or priest who practices the Tao. The director told him that another phenomenon had appeared above Yuking Mountain, which they could not explain. He hopes that he can accompany them there. Taoshi smoothed his beard and the student exclaimed that he knew. Is this that expert again? The one who brought sorrow upon himself? Taoshi hit him and called him by name Fugui and asked how many times should he repeat that they should believe in science. His student, rubbing his head in pain, agreed, and Director Wu said that he would tell him more about the situation on the way, so they need to move out. At this time, a red bird and a black turtle appeared in the sky, and the photographer filmed it all on camera. He asked his viewers, do they see this? All 4 guardian beasts appeared in the sky. He is broadcasting directly from Yuking Mountain. This is a live broadcast, there are no special effects at all. He swears on his life that these are not special effects. At this time, Director Wu gave Daoshi's phone number and said that this was the last video from the mountain. The one who filmed this is broadcasting live everything that happens. Taoshi asked, is he sure these are not ordinary special effects? The director replied that this was not the only video. They can find many photos and videos from other sources, from different angles. They can't all be made using the same special effects. The weather station monitoring Yuking Mountain also recorded electromagnetic fluctuations similar to those of another phenomenon that occurred 3 days ago. Suddenly the Taoshi sensed something and asked where the aroma of the pills came from. He opened the door and said that this was impossible. He looked at the top of the mountain and thought in surprise that he had smelled the thick aroma of pills all the way. What level does the pill have to be to spread such a powerful smell? He told them to speed up, he needs to go there, he wants to look at it. Director Wu told them to sit still and told the pilot that he needed to fly at full speed forward. The pilot replied that he understood him and they flew at full speed to the top of the mountain, where all 4 animals were. Fugui told the teacher that 4 guardian beasts appeared in the sky. The teacher did not answer anything and then they decided to turn around and saw that he was no longer in the helicopter. At this time, he was already heading down on the sword and thought that the aroma had become even stronger. Could it be that these beasts appeared because someone was making pills? But nothing like this had ever arisen when he refined the pills. At this time, Dahlia ended the broadcast and said goodbye to its viewers. The audience also began to say goodbye to her and one of them told her to watch the broadcast from Yuking Mountain. There's something going on there again. Another viewer wrote that there are 4 guardian animals. Is she not in Sky City? Isn't it near Yuking Mountain? She read the comments and thought, is this immortal there again? At this time, Liu Mo was still making pills and using absorption and then formation. The energy formed a pill and the 4 guardian beasts rushed upward, creating a bright wave of light at the top of the mountain. Liu Mo fell exhausted to the floor and said that creating this pill took away 99% of his spiritual power. He would have experienced a negative reaction if the pill had been more potent. He got up from the floor and said that he thought even cleansing pills could be dangerous. It's good that he managed to do it. At this time, the Taoshi was flying on his sword and looking at the top of the mountain. He said it was true, Yuking Mountain is the source of these phenomena. Something serious must have happened there. Perhaps he could even meet a real cultivator. At this time, Liu Mo looked at the pill he had made and said that it was a pity that this pill was only for extending a person's life by 100 years. It is completely useless for those who are already at the congenital stage. He doesn't seem to have any talent for alchemy. He put the pill in the box and said that this time he received an unexpected benefit from the purification process. Last time, he suddenly broke through to the 9th degree of the innate realm. At that time its foundation was still lacking. And so, he suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage to harden his body. But after refining this pill, his spiritual energy seeped into his muscles and bones, and now he returned to the 1st stage. Thanks to this, he should now feel that his aura is absolutely flawless and he can store twice as much spiritual energy as before. He feels that his mental strength has increased many times over. He went outside and said that this was truly an unexpected win. Suddenly he looked around and was surprised. He thought that he had not been refining pills for long when these trees and bushes appeared here. He turned his gaze upward and saw 4 guardian beasts. He said that this is the red bird of the south, the black tortoise of the north, the azure dragon of the east, and the white tiger of the west. These are the 4 guardians. He read in the ancient records that the master gave him that the appearance of 4 guards is a sign of great luck. He doesn't know why such a celestial phenomenon appeared here, but he should try to cultivate as much as possible. At this time, Taoshi was heading forward and thought that he had stepped onto the path of cultivation 10 years ago, but compared to ancient times, the spiritual Kai of the modern world had degraded to such an extent that it was difficult to find anyone with true cultivation now. However, 3 days ago, the pillar of light that descended near Yuking Mountain was clearly a heavenly tribulation as the high-level cultivator was about to break through. As for the phenomenon now, it is a sign that the highest quality pills are being prepared. This means that there is definitely a real cultivator on the mountain right now. No, not just a cultivator, it could be an immortal. If he could meet him, he might be able to achieve his cultivation if he gave him some guidance. He landed on the ground and thought that the spiritual Kai here was too thick. The closer he got, the denser it became. This must be the immortality pill, a real immortality pill. He asked the cultivator to wait and Liu Mo felt footsteps and said that someone is here. This is also a cultivator. Taoshi ran forward laughing and said that one breath of this thick spiritual Kai was enough for his old bones to be filled with so much energy. He even feels the impurities in his body being slowly cleansed with every breath. Compared to the healing effect of the pill's aroma alone, its decades of cultivation are like dog water. He wonders if the immortal will agree to let him take it if he shamelessly begs him for it. He cannot even imagine what the consequences will be. Suddenly he tripped over a stone and jumped a few steps forward. Liu Mo thought that the cultivator was rushing here. He was only at the stage of building the foundation. He looked into the thicket of the forest and said that it must be someone who was attracted by the appearance of the 4 guards. Well, the experts of this world are righteous and generous, completely different from his previous world where people attacked others without a single thought. He cannot be greedy, but he cannot refuse this opportunity either. He needs to forget this. He needs to leave a portion for the person who comes here. He will absorb some of the spiritual Kai to improve his cultivation and give the rest to the mountain and the creatures on it. He spread his arms to the sides and light began to emanate from his body. A strong column of light appeared from it and rushed into the sky. Taoshi noticed this and said that the spiritual Kai was going to this pillar of light. The column of light headed straight towards the 4 beasts and rushed upward. A cloud of energy appeared at the top of the mountain. Liu Mo clenched his hand into a fist and in the sky, the rays of the sun began to leak through the clouds. At this time, Liu Mo rose into the air and everything around him began to glow. At the same time, the photographer looked at it and said that it's beautiful, it's all too beautiful. Having the ability to capture something like this made his decision to become a videographer worth it. At this time, Taoshi was making his way through the thick grass and said that there is such thick and pure spiritual Kai here. 1 breath is equal to years of his cultivation work. What kind of person has such an ability to summon dense and pure spiritual Kai to cover an entire mountain? This must be an intimidating expert. He came out to a clearing with a dilapidated house and Liu Mo said that he was wondering how this fellow Taoist found the way here. Taoshi tensed and thought that he was here. He bowed to him in respect and said that the man's name was Chun Yong. He didn't want to bother him, but he hopes that he can forgive him. Liu Mo sat in hiding and thought that this name sounded so familiar. Well, at least he was polite. He told him to be calm and asked what he was doing here. Taoshi Chunyong breathed a sigh of relief and thought that it didn't look like the expert was angry. He replied that he dared to ask to what family or sect the eldest belonged. Liu Mo thought worriedly, what is his gender? If he makes it clear that he has no support, he won't take advantage of it. He cleared his throat and said that his teacher had long since separated from the mortal world and he did not like to interfere in worldly affairs. It was inconvenient for him to tell him his name. Chunyong thought fearfully, this expert's strength is at the zenith of the entire earth, but does he really have a master? What level is his master? Liu Mo asked, is he from a sect? Chunyong replied that cultivation sects are exalted and detached from the world. He has no talent and has not joined any sect. He is just a wandering cultivator. He saw a phenomenon caused by the appearance of an immortal treasure near Yuking Mountain, so he came here to try his luck. Liu Mo went downstairs and asked, immortal treasure. Chunyong looked up at him in surprise and Liu Mo said that he didn't remember seeing the immortal treasure. There was nothing here. Chunyong closed his eyes and replied that he understood everything. He thought that this expert could hide his appearance from his sight and spiritual sense. His cultivation must be enormous. Liu Mo walked up to him and asked if any other cultivators had come here. Chunyong replied that he was lucky and was passing by when this phenomenon appeared. He also didn't see any other cultivators on the way here. He is mediocre and has only reached the stage of building the foundation. He thought that he was already the strongest in his generation, but today he opened his eyes. The body of the elder creates a feeling of merging with space, and the spiritual aura is soft and lush but shining like the sun, just like the innate state described in the Tao Te Ching. He wonders if the elder can also give him some advice on this topic. Liu Mo thought, even a cultivator at the foundation construction stage says that he is cultivating the Tao Te Ching. He thinks it's important because he was even able to find the full version. He replied that this is a technique that anyone can use. Nothing mysterious, he just has to clear his mind and feel the great Tao. Chunyang wanted to happily ask him something, but suddenly Liu Mo felt the presence of ordinary people and thought that now was not the right time, he would keep them away. Chunyang heard the sound of a helicopter and thought it was Director Wu's helicopter. Liu Mo began to use his power and Chunyang mentally told these idiots to get out of here. Liu Mo sent his power upward and Chunyang was surprised. Fog appeared around the helicopter and the pilot told the director that they were surrounded by thick fog. Their electronics are also experiencing interference. He cannot tell if there are any obstacles near the helicopter. Now they are too close to the mountain, they may crash if they fly erratically. The director told him to maintain this position and hover in place. Fu Gui grabbed his head in fear and thought that this white mist was created from spiritual Kai. The fog compressed into steam and completely engulfed the helicopter. This level is not what his master is capable of. This is a real cultivator. There is definitely an immortal on Yuking Mountain. Chunyang knelt down in front of Liu Mo and asked him to forgive them. Those inside the helicopter are his student and the ordinary people he brought them here. They don't know the rules and don't think anything bad. Let him punish him instead of them for not teaching them properly. Liu Mo asked, are his people there? He wondered, could a cultivator at such a low stage teach disciples? He asked, are they without evil intentions? Chunyang confirmed his words and said that he would pick it up right now. He won't reveal his existence, so he begs him not to kill them. Liu Mo replied that he has no intention of killing them, even if he just doesn't flaunt the fact that he is here. Is he clear about that? He thought that it was better for him not to cause trouble and to cultivate slowly. Chunyang said with tears in his eyes that he understood him. Liu Mo waved his hand and energy flags began to be placed around the area. He said that he created a form inside the mountain. Ordinary people can no longer enter here. Let him remember that he should not turn back when he leaves, otherwise he will be trapped inside. Chunyang replied that he understood and thanked him for his generosity. Liu Mo waved his hand again and cleared the fog around the helicopter. The pilot told the director that the fog had cleared and the helicopter had restored its instruments. But they are too close to the ground and there is still thick fog blocking the view. The director told him to increase their height. They would wait for the Dayashi there. The helicopter flew away and Chunyang exhaled in relief, after which he bowed to him and said that he dared to ask one more question. He had never met a cultivator as strong as him. The cultivation path is difficult and lonely. If he ever faces the question, can he help him a little? He thought that he might never meet anyone of his caliber again. He should try to get this opportunity, even if he has to beg. This might be his best chance to advance his cultivation. Liu Mo agreed and said that cultivators helping each other is as natural as the great Tao. If he has any questions, let him come to the foot of the mountain. However, he hopes that he will not talk about it, as he would like to cultivate in this world. Chunyang said that he understood everything and thanked him. After that he stepped over the barrier and stopped. He took an amulet out of his pocket, and while burning it, he told the elder that he had met a real immortal. At this time, the helicopter was hovering nearby and at one moment the door suddenly opened. Fu Gui and the director called out to him and he told them that if they didn't want to die, then they should get out of here right now. At this time, incense was burning in an unknown place and the unknown girl heard the words of Chunyang that there was still an immortal in this world. Someone handed her an amulet and she told this person to quickly give it to her. At this time, Liu Mo stood in the middle of the forest and sighed with relief. He said that they had finally left. Whoever sent this cultivator here, now that his location was exposed, he should be more vigilant. He's been having trouble clearing the pill for the last 2 days. He's wondering if there's any advice on the internet about this. He looked at his phone and saw that he had 4 new messages. He thought, who sent him so much? He looked at the message from Dahlia, who asked when he was free. She wants to meet him. Seeing that he was not answering, she sent several more messages and asked him to answer when he saw it. He replied that he was here. Why does the Velvet Fairy need him? At that time Dahlia was driving in the car and said that he took so long to answer her. She already thought that he hit his head while he was cultivating and took off to heaven. But she needs to go to the capital, then she can arrange a meeting with him. She wrote to him that she was now going to the capital for a broadcast. It was for 7 days, so she invited him to meet after that. Liu Mo agreed and she told him that they agreed. He better come, otherwise she will be angry. He agreed again and she said that then she would sleep. For now, she had slept very little for the last couple of days. Liu Mo thought that even a professional like her has to go on broadcasts and sell things. Making money is not so easy. Suddenly he remembered the pills and said that although his pills did not help in cultivating the Velvet Fairy, they could still nourish and restore her spirit. He asked if she could send her address. He has a gift for her. Without thinking twice, she wrote him her address, and Jiang Jin told her that it seemed they were late again. The phenomenon had already disappeared. Are they still going there? Dahlia yawned and told her to forget about it. She was tired during the night of the broadcast, so she wants to go home and rest. Jiang Jin said that she wondered who thought of going there to see the phenomenon. Now that it is no longer there, workers like her have to work overtime to take her home. Dahlia giggled and said she did a good job. She'll ask the studio to give her a raise when she gets back. Jiang Jin turned the car around and said that this is better. She finally said what she wanted to hear. At this time, Liu Mo came to the courier company and said that he needed to deliver it to Mo City, Jin River District, Building 18 on the 14th floor. The courier company employee said it would cost 15 yuan. Liu Mo counted his savings in his head and said that the recipient would pay for it. After he left the courier company, his phone rang. He received a message congratulating him on reaching the required number of views. Now his account can become their partner and gain access to the sale of souvenirs. Let him verify and try. Liu Mo was happy and thought, now he can trade online like the elder Velvet Fairy and that blonde immortal old man. It's great. He just finished a batch of pills, he can sell them and make money. But how much should he sell it for? The formula is not his and they gave it to him for free. The oven costs 500 yuan, but it is very cheap, so he can consider it a donation from the old man. He collected herbs in the mountains, from which he can make 10 pills. If he does the math, he thinks 100 yuan is not a bad price. He put the pill up for sale and asked, do they want to cultivate? Want to learn the Tao and become a cultivator? Then have them try one of his brain-clearing pills. These pills will help them get rid of toxins and allow ordinary people to unleash their potential and cultivate. And all this for 100 yuan. Some man came across this ad and asked, is this toy sold for 100 yuan? He laughed and said that it was immediately obvious that this was some kind of deception. People who sell immortality pills and claim that it is a panacea that can give them immortality are definitely scammers. He called out to his dog named Sen King and asked, is this true? The dog barked in agreement and the man looked at the words that his immortality was very close. Did he think about immortality? He looked at these words again and gave in to temptation. He said it was only 100 yuan. Compared to how much he spent trying to cultivate, this is a small thing. He can live without these 100 yuan. He called out to his dog and said that he would take it for a walk. He left the phone on his chair and he received a message that the order had been accepted. His immortality was just around the corner. At this time, in the studio, Jiang Jin walked into Dahlia's room and asked if she was ready. They need to go to the studio. They will start broadcasting soon. She approached her and said that she had collected the parcel from the administrator. Dahlia took the package and asked if it was paid for at the reception. But she didn't order anything. The sender's address is the Great Banyan Tree. What kind of nonsense is this? Jiang Jin laughed and asked if it was from a fan. Why doesn't she open it and see what's inside? She replied that she had received various things from fans, but this was the first time she had to pay for shipping. They opened the package and were surprised at what was inside. The box contained a golden pill that emitted a pleasant aroma. They smelled it and said it smelled so good. Dahlia thought that she felt like she woke up after a good sleep, then ate a hearty and tasty meal, and then went to a massage and spa. This energy flows through her body. It's like she's being cleansed from the inside. All the pores are open to absorb at least a drop more of this aroma. It smells so good. She closed the lid and said it was a bit suspicious. She'd better put it aside for now. Jiang Jin asked, what is this? Dahlia replied that she doesn't know, but she can tell that it's something unusual, so she suggests that she close it for now. She invited her to go to the studio since the broadcast would begin soon. She can put this box in her drawer. Jiang Jin looked at the box again in surprise and put it in Dahlia's box. At this time, the courier came to the man and said that his parcel had been delivered. The man took the small box and asked if he needed to pay for shipping. What kind of seller is this? He went back into the house and asked what it was. Is it just a plastic ball? He was deceived again. Getting angry, he threw the pill box on the floor and said that let all these cultivators disappear. Enough of the deceivers. He looked at Liu Mo's ad and asked, what kind of immortality? What an idiot he is for falling for this. He added it to the blacklist and headed out of the house and asked who needs cultivation anyway. He'd rather spend his money on women and alcohol. The dog barked after him in surprise, and when the door slammed shut, the dog sniffed the pill and ate it. The dog licked his lips and several hours passed. Dahlia yawned and said that the broadcast was finally over. She opened her eyes and was very surprised at what happened to her room. She wondered where this fog came from. Her room smells so nice. She walked up to the table and said that it seemed like the smell was coming from here. She opened the drawer and revealed the box of pills. She took the pill and said it smelled so good. It's like it's asking you to eat it. She looked back and thought that Jiang Jin had already left. No one would know if she just tried it, right? Nothing will happen just once. She popped the pill into her mouth and thought she couldn't resist it. She swallowed it and 5 minutes passed. She lay down on the bed and said that she was so scared when the pill melted in her mouth, it seemed like there was no difference. She wondered why she was so worried. She closed her eyes and said that she needed to sleep, she had to get up early tomorrow. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide and felt pain. Her heart is beating so fast, it hurts. Was it really poison? She doesn't want to die. At this time, the man was driving with his friend in a car. His friend called him Brother Kyle and said that he had always been interested in cultivation. What does he think about those 4 beasts above Yuking Mountain? He replied that this was probably someone's trick. Cultivation and immortality only happen in books. It's all nonsense. His friend laughed and agreed with him. He told him not to sleep long today, he drank enough. Kyle agreed and thanked him for giving him a ride. He lit a cigarette and thought about cultivation. After that he threw the cigarette on the ground and crushed it with his foot, sending everything to hell. He came home and said that just the thought of it made him angry. He'll get rid of this nonsense now. Who needs this cultivation if he is already rich anyway? His dog, who was sitting on a chair, cleared his throat and asked if he had finally decided to return home. Kyle was surprised and the dog asked if alcohol had brainwashed him. Why is he standing with his hands raised? Kyle swore loudly and asked if his dog was talking. He had too much to drink. He rushed to his dog San King and asked him not to scare him. He's not sleeping, right? San King hit him in the face and he flew into the distance. San King asked, is he in pain? Kyle confirmed his dog's words and San King, exhaling cigarette smoke, said that this means he is not sleeping. San King said that from now on, he needs to follow 3 rules. First, this is his home. He is the owner, he should listen to him. Second, let him buy more of these pills and bring them to him. He wanted to talk about the 3rd rule, but Kyle interrupted him and exclaimed that he was an ungrateful dog. He raised him for so many years, loved him like a father, and now he rebels against him. San King kicked him and said that he feeds him the same tasteless food every day, locks him at home when he goes out, puts a leash on him for walks, and also castrated him. Does he say that he loved him? Let him not worry, he will love him too. So let him listen to him carefully. This is his home, he will live by his rules. Does he understand everything? The next morning Jiang Jin came to Dahlia's apartment and said that she bought her soy milk. She saw that there was no one in the living room and asked if she had woken up yet. She knocked on her room and told her to come inside. She knocked again and called out to her. At this time, Dahlia was sitting on her bed and was smeared with some kind of disgusting liquid. Jiang Jin came into her room and asked in surprise what she had smeared herself with. It smells disgusting. Dahlia replied that she didn't know. Her body ached all night and then she started sweating a lot. She's going to go take a shower, so she'll explain everything later. Jiang Jin agreed and said that she would help her change the bed linen. Dahlia went to the shower and began to wash off all the dirt from herself. A few minutes later Jiang Jin came into the bath and said that she was amazing. Dahlia looked at her in surprise and she said that her complexion was healthier and her skin was softer. What kind of potion did she drink that changed her so much? Dahlia replied that she only ate that strange pill. It seemed to be asking her to eat it, so she couldn't resist. She started to unscrew the cap of the bottle, but did not calculate the strength and squeezed it too hard. She asked if she had overdone it. Since when is she so strong? Jiang Jin grabbed her hand and said that she needed to take her to the hospital now. This not normal. Dahlia asked her not to pull it and tried to pull her hand away. When she pulled her hand away, she threw Jiang Jin over herself and she fell onto the bed. She apologized to her and said that she didn't do it on purpose. Jiang Jin, lying on the bed, said that she wanted to say that they would go to the hospital after the broadcast because it was about to start. But this is simply not normal. What if her life is in danger? She has to tell the producer about this. They are going to the hospital now. After completing all the tests, Dahlia told her that as far as she could see, she was fine. Jiang Jin looked at the test results sheet and said that the results were not only good, but also the past problems were gone. Even her myopia has disappeared. It's simply incredible. Dahlia said that the package said that the sender was an ancient banyan tree at the foot of Yuking Mountain. Maybe the immortal sent her the pill. Jiang Jin said that she is back with her rich imagination. Let her be glad that she didn't get poisoned and didn't have stomach problems. Suddenly Dahlia remembered that the slow cultivator told her that he wanted to send her a gift and he also lived near Yuking Mountain. What if it was him? At this time, Liu Mo was collecting herbs and received a message. He thought someone bought his pills. He saw that the Velvet Fairy called him Mr. Immortal in a message and asked, is he here? She needs to ask something. Liu Mo thought, why did she suddenly call him Mr. Immortal? Does he also want to ask something? She wrote that yesterday she received the pill. When she took it, it was as if she had been reborn. Did he send this to her? Liu Mo was surprised. Has she been reborn? Even his best pills only reach the 5th cycle. If he eats this, then the pills will contribute very little to his cultivation. But for a professional like her, the pills will relieve fatigue at most. The pill that seemed to make her reborn. It must be a gift from an expert in alchemy. He cannot accept praise for such a thing. He replied that it was not from him. She asked in disappointment, "Is this really not from him?" He replied that it really wasn't from him. At that time she stood in the hospital and thought, if not from him, then from whom? Jang Jin said that she said that it was not him. He's just using it. He pretends to be a cultivator, talks about his discoveries and asks for a recipe for pills. Let her stop falling for his deception. She saw that she was looking at her phone again and asked what she was doing. Dahlia showed her advertisements for pill sales and told her that she wanted to buy all the pills that were available. Who knows, maybe she will find out everything. They walked towards the exit and Jang Jin called her a rich young lady and asked how she could spend tens of thousands of yuan on such things. Ordinary people like her, their hearts bleed. Dahlia giggled and said that she would find the sender of this pill and go live with him. She can't believe he's still silent about it. At this time, Liu Mo sneezed loudly and said that a hair got into his nose. Suddenly he felt someone's presence and tensed. At this time, Chun Yang and his disciple Fu Gui were climbing the mountain. His student asked why they were returning here. Chun Yang called him stupid and said that they were coming back here to cultivate. He said that he traveled with him a lot through the mountains and rivers, seeing many mystical phenomena. Does he feel anything now? Fu Gui wiped the sweat from his face and said that he felt tired. Chun Yang asked, does he feel like he has become stronger in spirit in these mountains? Fu Gui hesitantly agreed and his teacher said something because he could sense the spiritual Kai that naturally existed in their world. In other words, the spiritual root. The disciple exclaimed, spiritual root, meaning he can cultivate to become immortal. The teacher asked, cultivate so that he could become immortal. What does he think is immortality? His student joyfully replied that immortals have limitless power. The teacher said it was wrong. Fu Gui then asked, are they separated from the mortal world? Chun Yang said again that this is wrong. His student exclaimed that he knew. Immortals are those who help the weak, fight injustice and protect their world. His teacher smoothed his beard and said that it was still wrong. Immortals are people too. They have 7 emotions and 6 passions. They have a desire for need. Some are evil, some are not. He can only guide him to the beginning of his cultivation. There are many mystical and complex things that he can only study on his own. He patted him on the head and said that he really wanted him to be kind and be patient, because once everything starts, everything will depend on him. They stopped at the edge of a cliff and Chun Yang said that this is a good place, so he invites him to stop here. Her student asked, will they rest here? Chun Yang sat down and replied that this was not the case. In their time, spiritual Kai had degraded so much compared to ancient times that they could consider a place with such a concentration of spirituality as Yuking Mountain to be the sacred land of cultivators. Today he will teach him how to absorb spiritual power into his body. Does he remember the breathing techniques he taught him? He needs to move yang clockwise around the body and collect spiritual Kai. Then he needs to concentrate and absorb, destroy, transform, dissipate and collect the cycle. He needs to cleanse the body of impurities, temper the mind and condense the Tao. From ashes to ashes, from dust to dust, he needs to draw strength from the cycle of the natural world. Energy began to emanate from his teacher, and at this time Liu Mo was watching them from a tree. He looked at the old man and thought, is it him? The old Taoist is on the verge of a breakthrough, and the young Taoist next to him is not bad. It has some imperfections, but its spiritual root is good. If he trains properly, he will definitely achieve success. He thinks it's fate, so he will help them. Suddenly, a bright column of light headed into Chun Yang's body and he felt a surge of strength. A bright column of light rushed into the sky and a flying dragon appeared around it. Chun Yang's eyes lit up and Fu Gui called out to his teacher in concern. He thought, had he really broken through? Chun Yang clenched his hands into a fist and thought that he had broken through. He began to cry and said that he had been stuck in the second stage of building the foundation for 30 years. He thought that he had already reached his maximum. But, having borrowed spirituality from a professional, he broke through to the 3rd stage and received a couple of decades of life. This is a blessing from heaven. Liu Mo said that the old Taoist's cultivation is weak, but he wants to study the Tao with all his heart. What a pity, his talent is too mediocre. He jumped down from the tree and decided to head towards them. Chun Yang told his disciple that each of the dozens of cultivators had been stuck on building the foundation for many years. It took at least 10 years before anyone could break through further because spiritual Kai is a subtle and complex thing. His disciple congratulated him and asked so he can continue teaching him how to cultivate. The old man laughed and said that he was lucky. Since he has broken through, his teacher is now considered the best Taoist among all Huazia. Fu Gui thought that even after the breakthrough, the teacher was still the same. Suddenly Chun Yang felt someone's presence behind him and turned around sharply. He said that he knows this aura, this is a professional. He bowed to Liu Mo and said that he was very grateful for his help in cultivation. Fu Gui continued to stand in surprise and his teacher, forcing him to bow, asked why he did not greet the elders. Fu Gui said that this is an ordinary person, he doesn't even look older than him. Is he sure that he is a professional? Was he wrong? His teacher apologized to Liu Mo and said that his student had just begun his training and could not sense spiritual Kai. He hopes he will forgive him. Liu Mo replied that it was no big deal. Why did they come to Yuking Mountain? Chunyang looked up at him and said that thanks to him, the mountain had become a sacred cultivation land. He only wanted to cultivate a little here. If he doesn't mind, he will be very grateful to him. Liu Mo thought that this old man was very polite, but didn't he have one stage? Why would he be so emotional? He asked what their plans were after the breakthrough. Chunyang replied that he wanted to go on a journey with his disciple, find the sect, and help him take the path of cultivation. Will he say anything? Liu Mo replied that it was a matter between the teacher and the student. He did not need to ask him. But he has a question. What outstanding sects do they know in this world? Chunyang didn't answer and thought, shouldn't a professional of this level know everything about the situation in the world? Does he not know how cultivation has degraded and how few cultivators there are now? Suddenly he realized that at this level, solitude alone would take hundreds of years. He completely lost touch with the world. He said that he probably didn't know, but the heavenly Tao was damaged and the spiritual Kai was in decline. Most cultivators are hiding. Regarding sects, he does not know how many there are. Liu Mo was disappointed and thought that based on his words, professional cultivators were pretending to be ordinary people. Such an old cultivator simply couldn't see them. Degradation of spiritual Kai? Is he joking or what? The spiritual Kai here is many times better than in his previous world. While Liu Mo was thinking, Chunyang looked at his face with a sparkle in his eyes and thought that he had not seen his face last time, but now he had a good look. There really is an immortal aura around him. He said that he thought that no one could surpass the golden foundation stage, but after seeing him, he realized that there was a lot he didn't know. Liu Mo closed his eyes and thought that he would wait until he realized how many cultivators were hiding in the city. He said that his pleas were pointless. The world is big, there are many people here, so he cannot compare with real professionals. Chunyang and Fu Gui exclaimed at the same time, is there something even stronger? Chunyang bowed and thanked him for the reminder. He had broken through with it and was immensely grateful for that. Can he learn his name, that he may know who his virtue was? Liu Mo replied that there was no need for ceremony. He said his name and said that he just wants to cultivate peacefully, so he's hopeful. Chunyang understood what he meant and said that he could rest easy. He would not tell anyone about his great name. They imposed themselves on him, but they will never bother him again, so they will go. They said goodbye to him and left. At one point Fu Gui decided to turn around and saw that Liu Mo was no longer there. He said he disappeared. Is he really immortal? His teacher did not answer his question and said that he would probably show him the path and show him the whole world. After a while, Kyle wrote to Liu Mo and said that he had eyes, but could not see Tai Mountain. He asks not to blame anyone but him for this. This is just a fraction of his sincerity. He hopes he won't think it's too little. He also wants to ask him for more pills. He is willing to pay 10,000 yuan for each. At this time, Liu Mo read his message and asked, the total would be 100,000 yuan. But who is this Emperor Kyle? At this time, Kyle was crawling on his knees around his house and begging Liu Mo to sell him these pills. He really regrets letting his dog eat this treasure. This time he will eat it himself so that his stupid dog doesn't get to it. Liu Mo looked at his message and thought, the person calling him a great immortal and willing to pay him 100,000 yuan came out of nowhere. This is very strange, only if it is a deceiver. The pills are sold in the official store. He can buy this one there. He doesn't have to write to him. He also offers a high price. In the previous world, the elders warned him about the kind-hearted ones who like to give things away for free. All these deceivers will drive him to death if he takes something from them. He thinks that he can deceive him just because he is not a pro on the internet. Let him dream about it. Liu Mo wrote something to him, and at that time Kyle read his message and asked, did he refuse him? He thought he wanted to deceive him. He got it wrong. He sent him another message, but Liu Mo had already blocked him. Kyle got upset and said that Mr. Immortal added him to the blacklist. Sand King approached him from behind and asked, will he continue to crawl here? He told him to buy the pill. He doesn't have to scream and cry. Kyle said that he tried to buy pills, but the Great Immortal not only didn't take the money, but also added him to the blacklist. He added it there first. He's probably still angry. Sand King read their correspondence and said that he was very angry. He would make sure that he was buried. Kyle asked in shock, is he a corpse? Sand King lit a cigar and asked, is he really that stupid? Most likely, the Great Immortal will simply ignore him. Kyle asked, is this true? Won't they kill him? Sand King told him to think about it. The one who sells these pills can be either an ordinary person or an immortal. If this is an ordinary person, then what if he is angry? But if not, why should he wait to kill him? Kyle said he was right. He was such a stupid dog, eating his own poop, chasing his own tail, and now he is calm, collected, smarter than most people. This is a divine pill. Sand King told him to stop talking nonsense and asked what was wrong with the pills. Kyle said that he wanted to buy everything, but the Great Immortal had already added him to the blacklist. Sand King told him to buy everything in the store. He thinks he can buy such pills for money. This is immortal destiny. If an immortal wants, he will receive such pills without even spending money. But if he doesn't want it, then he won't be able to get one even for a lot of money. Smiled and said that he was right. At this time, a new message came to Liu Mo's phone saying that he had a new order. Liu Mo was surprised and asked, "Have all 29 pills been sold?" It was that Emperor Kyle who bought them. Well, since he bought them officially, he will sell them. Everything is legal, so he won't be able to deceive him later, even if he tries. After that, he put the phone in his pocket and went into the forest. After a while, Dahlia started broadcasting in the studio. She greeted her viewers and said that the topic of today's broadcast was fake cultivation pills. Viewers began to write that the Velvet Fairy missed only one day of broadcast. How did she change so much? Another viewer wrote that now his waifu is even more beautiful, she is now like an immortal. Another viewer wrote that he so wants to marry her. Another viewer asked if she had a new filter. This is a wonderful effect, where can she download this? The studio worker said it was incredible. They already have 5 million likes and 100,000 viewers on the broadcast. Dahlia told viewers that she recently bought a couple of cultivation pills, but some of them are not what they seem. To help others not to be deceived, she will show all the pills. She showed the pill and said that the seller stated that the golden base pill was made from a variety of medicinal herbs and sold for 1888 yuan each. But if she cuts it open, they can see that the pill is made of some kind of powdered flour and a layer of caramel and sugar, and they sell it for 1888 yuan. To make a pill, the alchemist must extract the essence from the herbs and process it under special conditions. A batch of pills can only be ready after days or even a week of aging, and there is also a high risk of ruining everything. She hopes that all her viewers will remember this and will not buy counterfeits. If they need medicine, then let them go to the pharmacy. Viewers began sending donations and writing in the comments that they trusted her and hated cheaters. At this time, Liu Mo was watching her broadcast and wondered what was going on. The Velvet Fairy talks about all the deceivers. Someone sold her a pacifier and made her angry. It's a good thing he didn't tell her the truth about the pill when she asked, otherwise he would have been the one to fool her. He put the phone on the table and said that he still lacked the Tao in alchemy, so he couldn't sell pills anymore. The most important thing is its cultivation, everything else doesn't matter. He began to meditate, and at this time Dahlia exposed the pill sellers. She crushed the pill with a hammer and said that it was made of glue, so they would add this seller to the blacklist. It's terrible that among so many pills it's so difficult for them to find real ones. Zhang Jin gave her a thumbs up and said that her broadcast was again in the top. She even broke her own record. Dahlia was upset and thought that she had bought pills from all the big online stores, but she couldn't find the real pill. She had no idea who the sender was. Suddenly Emperor Kyle sent her 999 super rockets and wrote in the chat that he bought a real pill. His dog ate it and became wiser. One of the spectators asked, "Is this Kyle?" He gives her rockets again. Another viewer wrote that it seems he was late. 3 hours of broadcast have already passed, and he just decided to appear with his revelation. Another viewer agreed with the comment above and asked if his dog has gotten smarter. His dog is also smart, he can even give her a paw. The Velvet Fairy's dog wrote that he can also read and write. During this time, Kyle furiously posted comments and asked what do they know about this. His dog actually found spirituality. The dog not only wears clothes, but also drinks his expensive alcohol. Dahlia saw this message and asked if his dog had become spiritual. She told Zhang Jin to display Emperor Kyle on a separate monitor. She told viewers that if everyone was in doubt, why don't they invite their friend Emperor Kyle on the broadcast to prove that his dog has really gotten smarter. The Emperor will show them this, won't he? Kyle asked if they think he's afraid of them. Now they will see everything for themselves. He joined her broadcast and Dahlia asked where his wiser dog was. Suddenly Sand King hit him with his paw and stood in front of the camera and asked, was this beauty calling him? He giggled and said she was so beautiful. What cream does she use? Dahlia was very surprised and asked if the dog really talks. Pervert dog. One of the spectators said that this cannot be true, the dog really talks. Is this a montage or is there someone in a dog costume? One of the viewers wrote to the others to look at the background. They can understand that this is not a real dog. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. What the hell is this? Another viewer agreed with him and said that I was a talking dog. Then the authorities broke down the doors and took the poor thing away in the name of science. Sand King asked what do they know about this? Do they think all dogs hang out with people for fun? If anyone dares to catch him, he will show them his strength. But if journalists are interested in him, then they better send a beauty, otherwise he won't answer. Kyle went into the forest into the cell and asked, do they believe him now? His dog actually talks. Cultivators and spirits really exist. Immediately after that his broadcast was interrupted and Sand King asked why he turned off the broadcast. He spoke to her. Kyle said that he was not familiar with human society, so he prevented his disgrace. If the authorities come, he won't be able to save him. Sand King said let them come if they dare, and let him go and buy him games and expensive alcohol. Let him get out of his sight, he is tired of constantly looking at his ugly face. Kyle frustratedly obeyed his dog's orders, while Dahlia told the audience that the connection with the emperor had been severed. She quickly said goodbye to the audience and asked Zhang Jin, did she see this? He said his dog became spiritual after eating the pill. Zhang Jin asked her to wait and asked the producer if they had a recording of the broadcast. Can they check if it was a dog or a montage? The producer replied that they had a recording, but the analysis would take some time. Zhang Jin told her that she heard the producer, they will come here tomorrow. They still need to examine the changes in her body. The doctor checked her, but she needs to be careful. Dahlia agreed and thought that if this dog really became smarter after the pill, this pill could have come from the same person who gave her. Who could it be? Maybe it's a slow cultivator. Last time he denied it, but why is she still thinking about him? At this time, Liu Mo was meditating and received a new message. The Velvet Fairy asked, is he free tomorrow? She wants to meet him. He was delighted and agreed to the meeting. Then she asked where they could meet. Suddenly a thought came to Liu Mo's mind and he thought she just exposed the deceivers and now she suddenly wants to meet him. Is this really a trap? With her abilities, would she need to come up with something to deceive a natural cultivator like him? On the other hand, if he refuses, she might get angry, and if a professional of her level gets angry, the consequences will be unimaginable. He can't be so careless. He will choose a place where he can escape if something goes wrong. He wrote that they could meet tomorrow evening at a tea house at the foot of Yuking Mountain. She agreed and he thought that it was good that he had earned some money, now he could treat her to tea. The next day Zhang Jin told Dahlia that this dog is now in the news. She needs to watch the interview from channel 1818 News. The dog's owner's name is really Kyle. He's really a husky and he can talk and walk on his hind legs. Dahlia started watching a video in which Sand King told the cameraman to move closer. He needed to adjust the angle. After that, the frame switched to Kyle and the reporters asked him when he found out that his dog was talking. He replied that he really regrets it. He bought a pill online and fed it to his dog, thinking it was a pacifier. Who knew he would get wiser instead? While Dahlia was watching the video, Zhang Jin told her that someone from yesterday's broadcast told the news. They immediately went to the scene and found the dog. There is more than one channel, they are all official, this is not a hoax. Dahlia's eyes widened when she heard that he bought the pill. He knows who the seller is. She asked where Kyle lives. They will go to him now. They arrived at the airport and Zhang Jin told her that rich people are completely different. They go where they want and when they want. Dahlia stopped and Zhang Jin asked what is it. She replied that she had a meeting with a slow cultivator in the evening. Zhang Jin looked at her and said that everything is fine, let her just ask him to reschedule the date for tomorrow and then she will fly out in the evening. Dahlia asked, date. At this time, Liu Mo sneezed and thought it was strange that he had been sneezing a lot lately. He stood opposite the entrance to the tea house and thought, when will the Velvet Fairy come? At this time, a crowd of people and reporters gathered in front of Kyle's house. They were all interested in him and his dog and asked them to come out. Kyle carefully opened the curtains and looked outside and said that he was too reckless. He did not expect that what he was talking about would attract so much attention. They can't even leave the house. He looked at Sand King and said that he was telling him that if someone came to take him away, he would not be able to stop them. Besides, they found out about the pills, he couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't steal them. Sand King said they could try. Kyle headed to the door and said that he would go and tell them that it was all a montage and that he should hide. They will leave when they realize that it is all a deception. Sand King took a sip of alcohol from his glass and agreed. But when Kyle opened the front door, Director Wu appeared in front of him and asked, is his name Kyle? They're from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigation. They would like to ask him and his dog to come with them. Kyle repeated, Supernatural Investigation Bureau. What kind of nonsense is this? He had never heard of such a thing. He thinks he will go somewhere with a bunch of unknown people who suddenly appeared on the threshold of his house. He shouted at them to get out of here. Suddenly, Director Wu's security guard grabbed his hand and Kyle said that he would call the police. Director Wu revealed that he was calling his father and said that they came without warning, so they took the liberty of calling his father. He put the phone to his ear and his father told him to quickly come with them. Without thinking twice, Kyle agreed. At this time, a bus was driving along a mountain road with Fu Gui and his teacher on it. He thought that he had been studying with the master for almost 20 years, but this was the first time he had heard about the sect, and after the breakthrough, his aura completely changed. His spirit is as sharp as a sword, his spiritual kai overflows like that of an immortal. Does that mean everyone in the sect is just as strong? So everyone can cultivate to immortality and do all these things. He joyfully turned to the teacher and wanted to ask something, but he saw that he was watching videos with beautiful girls and asked, does he have a conscience? Chun Yang asked what is he saying. Right now he is teaching the Tao to young people in the chat. Suddenly the director called him and he picked up the phone. The director told him that they had found a dog that had gained spirituality and learned to speak. He needs his help. Chunyang replied that he knew it, he saw it on the news, it was probably a hoax. Director Wu said that this is not a hoax. They have already arrested the dog and the owner, the case is up to them. They need his help in studying the dog. Chunyang was surprised and thought, is this really true? Which saint gave spirituality to dogs? He replied that he understood him, he would be there in half an hour. He rushed to the driver and told him to install it in the bus. His wife is giving birth, they need to return urgently. The driver stepped on the gas and said that he understood him. After a while he stopped on the side of the road and said that this was a big event. He couldn't drop them off, but it was still closer from here. Chunyang replied that everything was fine and they began to leave. The driver looked out the side window and chuckled and said that he was such an energetic old man, even children were his age. This is admirable. When the bus pulled away, Fu Gui told the teacher that they were 300 kilometers from the city. How will they get to Director Wu in half an hour? His teacher replied that it was simple. He grabbed his hand and they quickly ran. At this time, in Director Wu's office, Kyle and his dog were sitting on a chair. San King said that they have been keeping them here for an hour, what do they need? Kyle replied that he didn't know. He looked at Director Wu and asked if he could at least tell him what they were waiting for. The director took a sip of tea and said that he could tell them. First, he invites them to behave themselves when they meet him. If they anger him, he could destroy their entire family. They got scared and thought, is it really that serious? The director wanted to call his name, but Chunyang entered the room with his out-of-breath student. Director Wu spread his arms to the sides and told Dayashi that he was here. Kyle and Sen King asked at the same time, is this a Taoist? Director Wu approached Taoshi and said that a couple of days had passed, and he was already like a completely different person. Chunyang smoothed his beard and said that he had good powers of observation and had recently been lucky enough to make a breakthrough. Director Wu was surprised and thought that in their time, spiritual Kai was especially rarefied and confused, making a breakthrough was extremely difficult. No one has succeeded in doing this in recent decades, but how did he do it? Kyle thought, is this the immortal? He feels a bright aura from him, he wants to kneel before him and serve him. Chunyang thought that this technique was very effective. San King looked at them and thought that this was bad. What if he thought it was delicious and made a cutlet out of it? He needs to run. This is a great moment. He will run away while they are distracted. He only needs to make one jerk. He deftly slipped past them and, heading straight into the doorway, laughed and said that they didn't have time. Director Wu ordered him to stop the dog and his guards rushed forward. Kyle got scared and thought that if he ran away, they would take it out on him and destroy the whole family. Chunyang brought 2 fingers to his face and stopped the dog with a slight wave of his hand. San King froze in place and thought, what happened? He can't move. Chunyang ordered the dog to approach him and he abruptly threw the dog to the side. The dog hit the wall and said that this is violence. He will report him to the Animal Welfare Society. Chunyang ordered him to be silent and his mouth closed. Kyle fell to his knees in front of Chunyang and said that his last name was Lee and his first name was Kyle. He asks him to take his students. He began to cry and said that he had been striving for the Tao since childhood. He's willing to go through anything, so he asks him to teach him how to cultivate. Chunyang examined him carefully and noticed that he had a spiritual root, although it was worse than Fu Gui, but just having a spiritual root made him a chosen one. Suddenly Director Wu grabbed Kyle by his clothes and told him to stop causing trouble. Chunyang raised his hand and said to be quiet, he could teach him. But when choosing a student, he relies not only on talent, but also on personal qualities. If he really wants to know the Tao, then he will monitor himself for 3 years. He will take him on as a student if he can stand it. Kylio was delighted and asked, is this true? He fell on his knees in front of him and thanked him. Chunyang told him to live his normal life, he has ways to learn it in these 3 years. Director Wu looked at Chunyang and asked the Taoshi, what's wrong with the dog? Chunyang walked towards the dog and said that he would take a look now. He raised his hand in front of the dog and extended it forward, after which he touched the dog's forehead and wondered why there was a divine pill in his stomach. The pill has not yet completely dissolved, but the dog has already become much stronger physically. He exclaimed that this was such a waste. Why did he need to feed the pill to the dog? If he had been given this pill, he would have made another breakthrough. Director Wu noticed that he was sad and asked what is it. Fu Gui looked at the teacher and asked why he was crying. Chunyang shouted that they had angered him. San King was scared and Chunyang thought that if he beat him to death, all the effects of the pill would disappear. Even if he can get it, it is already spoiled by his nature. If he eats this, he may become mentally retarded. He called out to Kyle and asked where he got this pill from. Let him tell him everything in detail. Kyle began to tell him everything, and at this time the crowd was still standing near Kyle's house and a Dahlia car drove up. Jiang Jin told her that official channels confirmed that the dog was a deception. It seems the dog's owner is not at home either. She thinks he is hiding after being exposed. Dahlia was upset and said that it was time for them to return. They had already missed a lot. Zhang Jin introduced her to a man named Qin Xiao and said that he lived nearby and knew Kyle, and he also helped them organize this trip. Qin Xiao said that it was a great honor to meet the Velvet Fairy. He should be the one to thank them. Suddenly Dahlia remembered something and took a notebook out of her bag. She wrote something down there and tearing off the page told Qin Xiao that she needed to hurry to the broadcast. Can she ask him to give this to Kyle if he sees it? She wants to see him in person. Qin Xiao agreed and said that she and he would drink together. Don't let her worry, he'll definitely tell him. They left and said that they were in a hurry, next time they would treat him. He waved to them and said that it was an honor to help the Velvet Fairy. At this time, Kyle had already told everything and said that this is how it all happened. Chunyang asked, did he buy the pill online? Isn't this all a scam? Director Wu agreed with him and asked who would sell the pills that gave the dog spirituality. Chunyang suddenly remembered why the pill seemed familiar to him. It had the same aura as the spiritual Kai of Yuking Mountain. Why does Mr. Liu Mo sell such pills online? Only if he is not preparing to enter the mortal world. Does he sow karma? Is it because of what is about to happen? But shouldn't there be a lull? Suddenly he called out to Director Wu and said that he had an urgent matter that he needed to attend to immediately. He and Fu Gui will be gone for a couple of days, and if something happens during these couple of days, then let him try to control it and suppress it. Director Wu told him not to worry, they had already given the command to spread the word that everything was a fiction. And they also want to track the seller of this wonderful pill. They won't do anything to him, even if they find him. Chunyang agreed and said that he needed to be careful. Let them remember, no matter what happens, they must not go to Yuking Mountain, otherwise he will not be able to save them. Director Wu agreed and Chunyang asked Kyle if he could contact the seller through his phone. He replied that he tried to send him money and he blocked him. Chunyang thought that it was normal for professionals of his level to be out of this world. He told Kyle that he needed to cooperate with the director and not cause him any more trouble. Kyle bowed to him and said that he would carry out his orders. Director Wu asked Taoshi what should they do with the dog. Chunyang thoughtfully stroked his beard and said that he has a talisman of silence and closure. Let them use these talismans to stop the dog if he wants to harm someone or cause a commotion. Of course, this is only to control the situation, and if he knows that they used it for personal reasons, then they will deal with it when he returns. He'll be back in about a week, let them be careful. Kyle and Director Wu, holding amulets in their hands, looked at San King and laughed maliciously. San King asked what they want to do with him. After that, the screams of a dog began to be heard from the office. At this time, on Mount Yuking, dark energy began to emanate from the temple. At this time, Liu Mo was still standing at the tea house and suddenly felt that the structure around the teacher's temple was shaking. He wondered if he should postpone his meeting with the Velvet Fairy. He rushed out and said that moving around the teacher's house was more urgent. He can always come back here. At this time, San King was lying helplessly on the floor, and Kyle, laughing, said that he had not had so much fun for a long time. The director's subordinate entered the room and said that they had determined where the package was delivered from. According to their intelligence, the package was delivered to Mr. Kyle's house from a barn near Yuking Mountain. Kyle asked the director what should they do. The teacher clearly said that they should not go near Yuking Mountain. Director Wu replied that he did not know. He told him to look after the dog and he would make the call. He called his boss and he asked if something happened. Let him tell quickly why he called the old man. The director said that he guessed right. They have a huge problem. The boss told him not to mess with Yuking Mountain anymore, it is a special place. Let him listen to the Taoshi and not cause a commotion there. Director Wu agreed and thought that even the previous boss was telling him to obey Dayashi. Previously, he tried to find out about the teacher and student, but was left with nothing, as if they had appeared out of thin air. The boss told them to remember that there are some things that ordinary people are better off not knowing. The director said that he understood and returned back to the office. Kyle asked what they would do. Director Wu replied that it's okay, there is something on Yuking Mountain that it's better for them not to get involved in. Kyle thought that Director Wu held a position that his family wouldn't dare mess with, but there are things happening on the mountain that even he is afraid of. What kind of monster is hiding there? Suddenly his phone rang and he said that he needed to answer. His friend called him and said that he wouldn't believe it. The famous streamer came to his house to meet him and the talking dog, she even left him a note. Kyle asked, "Are you a streamer? What did she write?" His friend replied that this goddess is called Dahlia. She wrote that she also took a pill and something like that. Kyle and Director Wu were very surprised by his words and after a few seconds of silence, his friend asked, "What is it? Is he even here?" He laughed nervously and said that it seemed like the signal was bad, so they'd talk later. He hung up, and at this time Qin Xiao was indignant and exclaimed, "He hung up, what a rude person he is." Director Wu asked Kyle if there was anything special about this streamer he was talking about. He replied that she was a host on the Talk Talk channel with dances and songs on the theme of cultivation, and especially it seems to him that she is magnificent. The director asked, "Is she great? And what else?" Kyle said nothing. Director Wu got angry and asked, "Is it okay?" Kyle asked him to wait and let him think. He remembered that she had looked strange lately. She was pale and looked a little better than the others, but suddenly her aura and appearance changed dramatically, as if she had become healthier and more alive. He showed him the photo and said that this is it. Director Wu looked at the photo and began to admire its beauty. He blushed and said that it was true that there was something unusual in her appearance. He invited him to find her and said that although they could not go to the mountain, they could still find out something from her. At this time, Liu Mo was on Yuking Mountain and went to his old house. He wondered if the building was collapsing. He needs to look at it first. He opened the doors of the temple and told the teacher that his student was at home. He lit the candles and told the teacher that he really should have listened to his warning and left only after the ascension. There are so many professionals in this world, his power is limited. His kindness and care for him made him lose his vigilance like in his previous life. He always said that he was too pure and trusting, but he doesn't know if that's a bad thing. Suddenly he heard a squeak and turned around. He saw a small mouse run through the crack in the door. Suddenly Liu Mo understood and said that he was wondering why he couldn't feel the breath of other people. Maybe it's all because of the mouse. The mouse ran into a room that the teacher had never allowed him to enter. He said that this room protects an important secret of their sect. If there is something important there for their sect, then he needs to save what the master left behind. He touched the door and destroyed it. He stopped in front of the entrance and remembered how the teacher told him that if he went there, he might die from Kai deprivation of vitality. The teacher always warned him about the dangers of this place, but the mouse seems to be okay. Now that he is strong, he has the body of a pseudo-immortal, his Kai and vitality are in abundance. He must be able to hold out long enough to avoid even the most powerful curse. He stepped over the threshold of the room and stopped. He felt his body shaking from this evil force. Suddenly this feeling disappeared and he thought, what was the teacher hiding here? He needs to study this carefully. He won't rest until he finds out everything. He illuminated the room with his power and saw that there was a computer, a trash can and other things in the room. He looked around the room and said that there was nothing special here. He looked at the basket and thought, maybe there. He removed the rag covering the contents of the basket and saw discs with naked women there. He blushed and thought, is this a secret that will absorb Kai and vitality? He quickly covered it with a rag and said that now he understood what he had done here. He sighed and said he was a little paranoid. It turns out that the teacher resorted to lies to hide it from him. Suddenly he felt the trembling again and it began to intensify. Suddenly all the furniture in the room began to shake and he said that something was definitely wrong here. He noticed a depression in the floor and touched it. He moved part of the tile to the side and saw in the hole a box that was completely covered with talismans. He said that he didn't even need to use his spiritual senses to feel the evil powers that this box exuded. Apparently this is what the master locked here. He noticed that the talismans on the box began to collapse and thought that he did not know what was inside, but he was sure that if it came out, he would be in trouble. If the teacher kept it, then he needs someone to sharpen it again, right? Under the box he noticed a letter and asked what it was. He opened the envelope and said that it was the teacher's handwriting. In the letter, the teacher called him a fool and said that if he was reading this, it means his teacher was no longer in this world. He told him not to come here, but he still didn't listen to him. He can't believe that he cultivated to the innate stage. Liu Mo read these lines and apologized to the teacher. He had truly reached the innate stage. He began to read further. The teacher wrote that if he reads this, he will tell him a few secrets of their sect. But first he needs to get rid of the discs in the trash. He can't let his teacher's reputation be ruined. Liu Mo asked, reputation. But the teacher had no reputation. His teacher wrote that this thing had been passed down in his family for 72 generations. They don't know what's inside anymore, but there's no way he can open that box. Liu Mo was surprised. 72 generations. This box must be over 1,000 years old. His teacher repeated in a letter that he should not open this box. The consequences would be unimaginable. If he has the opportunity, then let him bring it to the heir of the Tao sect. Liu Mo said that he understands that it is dangerous, but where can he find an heir? He decided to seal the spiritual power box for now, then he would think about where to find the heir. He added a few more seals to the box, and at this time, a dark clot appeared in one of the buildings in the city. The clot thought that he definitely felt the companion's aura. Why did it suddenly disappear? What happened? He needs to find out. After a while, in the Kunlun Mountains, Chunyang and Fu Gui climbed up the mountain. Fu Gui counted 1,000 steps and sat down on a stone and told the teacher that they had been climbing for an hour. After that he asked how long they still had to go. Chunyang replied that they were already there. Fu Gui saw nothing ahead and asked, has he gone crazy from old age? There's nothing here but frogs and more steps. And there is also a sign warning that they cannot go further because there are wild animals there. Chunyang took out the amulet and used it, commanding the hidden one to appear. After his words, everything around began to transform and a temple appeared in front of them. Chunyang turned to his student and said that the teacher would show him a new world.